I've got a little confession to make. I've had an on-off relationship with creatine for years. In my 20s, I hit the gym more than I rode my bike because I wanted to get bigger arms and a bigger chest. So creatine was my supplement. Then I started triathlon, and as an endurance athlete, I didn't think I needed it anymore until I heard about the benefits to my power. So I started taking it again, but I gained a couple of pounds, so I stopped. On that final point, turns out I shouldn't have worried about it at all. And if you keep watching, I'll explain why. I'm Simon Ward, and today I'm busting the biggest creatine myths and sharing why this isn't just about building muscle, it's about building a better brain and supporting the training that matters most as we age. So let's start with the biggest myth. Number one, creatine is only for bodybuilders. Not true. The truth is that creatine is actually the most studied supplement in the world. We're talking about decades of research with thousands of people. But this is the point that really opened my eyes. We make creatine naturally in our bodies every single day. When the amino acids like glycine and arginine are broke down. And creatine production is the most methylation demanding process in your body. I haven't got time to explain that here, you can Google it. But it's also found naturally in food. So if you're eating things like sardines or mackerel, any oily fish and meat, then you're already consuming creatine in your diet. And as recent podcast guest Dr. Tommy Wood told me, if you eat a couple of tins of sardines a day, then you're getting several grams of creatine naturally in your diet. So it's not some dodgy chemical cooked up in a lab. It's a natural compound that your body already knows how to use. The second myth, and this did keep me away from using creatine for quite a few years, that fear of weight gain and bloating, which was real for me and other people. But it's only a slight increase in weight right at the very start of taking the supplement. But here's what's actually happening, and it's not what you think. You get improved muscle cell hydration. So as you get the creatine going into the muscles, it brings water along with it. And so the muscle cells are now being hydrated. So it's not bloating and it's not fat gain. The muscle cells are better hydrated, which is actually a performance benefit. Now, if there is any weight gain, we're talking about maybe a pound or two at most, and it's functional weight and it's temporary. But it does help you it does help your muscles to work more efficiently. So think of them as having better access to the fuel they need and improving your overall performance. Right, myth number 3. Endurance athletes don't need creatine because we're all about aerobic fitness. Now, this is one that's had me thinking over the years. You see, even as an endurance athlete, we do need power. If you think about some of your recent races, might be a sprint to the finish line, powering up a steep climb on the bike, bridging a gap when you're out cycling with your mates, or getting out of the water quickly at the finish of a swim and running to T1. Every one of those moments relies on your ATP PC system, and that's the same energy system that creatine supports. So here's the kicker. As we get older, we naturally lose fast twitch muscle fibres, and those are what give us explosive power. But we also know that HIIT and strength workouts become more important as we age because we have to maintain the muscle mass and the bone density. Well, creatine supports exactly that type of training. It helps us to perform better during those crucial workouts, and they're the sort of workouts that are increasingly important in your 50s, 60s and beyond. Right, so this next thing is where creatine gets really interesting for those of us who aren't just focused on performance, we're focused on longevity. And it's the brain benefits that nobody really talks about, except Tommy Wood. You see, he's done lots of research, and some that he shared showed that creatine can overcome some of the negative effects of sleep deprivation on your cognitive function. So they've done some brain scans proving this works by improving energy production in the brain. So think about long training days when you're mentally fatigued, or if you're travelling across time zones for work or races and you've got a bit of brain fog, or just the general cognitive demands of balancing training with work and family life. The memory benefits are particularly compelling. So, as Tommy said, later in life, as people get older, creatine seems to be more beneficial, especially if they've already noticed some cognitive defects, and it particularly improves memory. So you can check out the previous podcast I did with Tommy where we talked about brain health. Now, if you're female going through the menopause or perimenopause, then this topic might be even more relevant. There's some emerging research which shows that creatine can help with brain fog, as I mentioned before. It's that frustrating mental cloudiness many women experience during hormonal transitions. There was another study that looked at high school American football players over a season. Probably they could do the same study on rugby players. And the more impacts they had, the more their brain creatine levels decreased. So having more creatine on board beforehand acted as a protective buffer. Now, you may not play American football, but you probably do ride a bike, and there is potential for head injuries there. So this is relevant to you. So how do you actually use creatine? Well, the beauty of it is in its simplicity. Here's what the researchers and people like Tommy would have found actually works. Take between 5 and 10 grams a day, but scale to your body weight, so more for heavier people. Doesn't matter what time of day, just be consistent of taking it daily. And take the creatine monohydrate, preferably something that's manufactured by a company called Creapure. You don't need a loading dose, just take the same amount every day. And this is exactly what Tommy said. You don't need to load, you don't need to cycle it. It's a natural compound. We make it every day. So taking it doesn't decrease your body's natural production. And here's something else you might be worrying about. The safety profile of creatine is incredible. The only people who should avoid it are those with kidney problems, since the creatine breaks down into creatinine, which needs to be filtered by the kidneys, so it could put stress on them. Now, this is an important heads up for you if you do start taking creatine, is that those creatinine levels will go up. So if you have a blood test done every year, you might find that those are elevated levels, but it's completely normal and it doesn't indicate kidney problems. And as Tommy shared in the podcast, he actually had to argue with doctors about this when he was hospitalised in South America after he was bitten by a snake. So what's my take about creatine for endurance athletes over the age of 50? Well, it's not just about today's performance. It's about maintaining function as we get older. Something I'm super concerned about, and you probably are too. So the research shows it's more beneficial as we get older, particularly for memory and cognitive function. So here are the times when I think it makes most sense. If you're doing regular high intensity training or strength work, well, you should be if you're over 50. You want to support cognitive function as you age. Well, who doesn't want that? For those of you who travel frequently for races or work, then creatine might be a good supplement temporarily to help. If you're a female dealing with menopause or perimenopause symptoms, or if you participate in sports with any head injury risk. So you want to take about 5 to 10 grams a day, and it's incredibly affordable, much less than, say, your coffee budget each month. Now, I haven't taken creatine for some years. Told you about my earlier experiences, but after my conversation with Tommy, I'm definitely going to be starting. In fact, I've already ordered my first tub, so I will keep you posted on my progress and if there's any weight gain this time. But that isn't the question for me. The question isn't, and it's not where the creatine's safe or effective. I think the research on that is crystal clear on both counts. The question is whether the potential benefits align with your goals. Now, for me, at 61, supporting both my physical performance and my cognitive function for the decades ahead is, if you'll excuse the pun, a no-brainer. So, what's your experience with creatine? Have you tried it? Did it work for you? Did it not? Did you gain some weight? Did you not? What were the myths that were holding you back from, or are holding you back from starting in the first place? Please drop your thoughts in the comments below and I'll reply to every one of them. Now, if you found the video helpful, please do make sure you subscribe and share it with other people who might benefit, and hit the notification bell so that you find out quickly about future videos. I'm constantly diving in to the science behind performance and longevity for athletes over 50 on my podcast and then sharing it on here. And if you do want the full conversation with Dr. Tommy Wood, including the one on brain health, then check out the podcast episodes linked in the description below. In both episodes, we go much deeper into the research and the practical applications. Finally, if you're ready for structured training actually works for athletes over 50, training that's built around the science of aging and performance, then please check out the SWAT Inner Circle. It's sort of like my tactical training arm of the Battle Ready Society, and it's designed for athletes who refuse to slow down. And you'll find a link in the description. If you've got any questions, you can share those in the comments, and as I said, I'll answer all of them. Okay, thanks for watching, and do remember this: we don't rust, we stay battle ready.